it's a cold, rainy day in the middle of in early summer when it's supposed to be hot and warm. So it's very easy to be unhappy and dissatisfied with the weather, you know, because it should be otherwise, right? But should has absolutely no relevance to reality. You know, we should really eliminate that word because...
We should.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, yeah, because it has no relevance. Even what I'm saying, nobody's going to eliminate it. So. Even though everybody should listen to me. It just doesn't work like that. So I remember when I was a little kid and I was really unhappy about something and dissatisfied, my mother would say, you know, what do you have to complain about? Think of, you know, children in other parts of the world. And I hated when she said that, you know, because I had no knowledge of children in other parts of the world except that I was supposed to eat. I was supposed to finish my plate because the children in China were starving. But aside from that, I had absolutely no knowledge, and I didn't like being told that I had a very good situation when I didn't think it was good at all, when I was dissatisfied and unhappy and complaining. Because somehow I thought, you know, it should be different, right? So I didn't like being told that how I was feeling was wrong or incorrect, or I shouldn't be feeling what I'm feeling. However, you know, as an adult and, you know, really listening to the Dharma teachings, so often we are asked to look at our fortune and to look at our situation with the freedom it has and the good conditions it has that other living beings don't have. Yeah. So I actually learned through the Dharma that this kind of comparison can be very good for pulling me out of the times when I feel down and dissatisfied and grumpy and unhappy, you know. Because even though I may not listen to my mother, I'll listen to the Buddha. Yeah, at least I should listen to somebody who's wise. You know, but it really is true that when we look at our situation, it may be cold and rainy in June, but like I was saying at the stand-up meeting this morning, they're having 100-degree plus temperatures in Colorado, and thus there's raging wildfires there and in New Mexico and Utah. And so when we look at that situation and our situation, we actually have nothing to complain about. And again, to quote my mother, this should be the worst trouble you ever have. Yeah, and she's right. You know, of course I didn't like hearing that at the time. You know, I've always thought I should do a book on, you know, Dharma that my mother was teaching me but didn't know that she was teaching me at the time. You know, and these are those kinds of things that when you hear them again in the Dharma, you know, it helps you see, oh, I do have a lot of fortune, and, you know, this really should be, if this were the worst of my problems, boy, I would be totally delighted. You know, if this is the greatest suffering in samsara, is that it's cold and rainy today, boy, fantastic. Yeah. So this kind of perspective can often open our mind to something much broader, because so often when we are miserable or depressed or unhappy, our mind gets very, very narrow, you know, extremely narrow, usually focused on me in one way or another. Yeah. And this opening it up to see, you know, the big picture and what is going on in samsara, what is our potential, what does exist in the universe, is very freeing. and very liberating from that narrow, unhappy, complaining, dissatisfied mind. Okay. And so then if we're really practicing well, we should rejoice that it's cold and rainy and take on all the suffering of all living beings who are cold and way too wet in samsara, and take their misery upon ourselves with delight and with compassion, and think of giving them, our body, possessions, and merit. And if we look at it that way, it's cold and rainy outside, but we're inside and kind of warm and dry and comfortable. Yeah. So can we take on the discomfort of others who don't have a good situation like we do, and give them our happiness? And so you start out with small situations like this, and then really, gradually ramp it up to be able to take on bigger and bigger situations of misery and give more and more of our body, possessions, and virtue to others.